Welcome into the first episode of It's Called Football. We may have tried to do it in a little bit before, but some technical issues. So
Yeah,
this will be the first one that actually gets out to everybody. So welcome.
exciting.
Yeah, it is. I'm Jerry Walker. I'll be kind of hosting alongside with Will Scott. So first, Will, how are you doing today? How's the week going?
Good. I've spent most of the week working on a piece in the January transfer window, which I'm excited for to come out. Yeah, I've had a good week. I've been getting into university. There's been a lot going on. Um, I'm excited for this Premier League weekend though. There's some spicy ones in there. I'm especially excited for the rematch.
Oh yeah, we'll get into that in a second. But actually, if we can probably hop into that immediately. So this week, Wednesday, there was Leeds played Man United. Leeds is my team. Man United is unfortunately Will's team, but
Hmm.
we'll put that aside for this one.
Yeah,
But it was kind of a weird thing. This match wasn't meant to be played then. This was meant to be played back in what was it, October, September time. But it was around when the Queen died, so they postponed this one because I believe it was they didn't have enough police around to cover such a big match because these two are very big rivals at times. But it 2-all, Leeds are up 2-0, and I was shocked that it went 1-0 in 55 seconds.
yeah.
So it's absolutely ecstatic. And then Man U scored 2 goals in the second half to equalize it. So we'll start with that. Will, what was your just immediate impression of that match alone?
I thought we overall. I think, and maybe you'll disagree with this. I think we probably did enough to win. I think there were
Oh,
two defensive lapses in concentration at the start of both halves, and I think what we did as well is we played too much into how Leeds want to play. Um, and I think that is probably on our starting lineup. Leeds prefer a more chaotic, in general, like when big sides play smaller sides. Smaller sides want chaos. They want less control, because when big sides control and can sustain pressure, that's when goals start coming. We had players like Fred. Fred is not a natural progressor of the ball, and
no.
he was giving the ball away all the time. Bruno Fernandes, for all his amazing sort of abilities creatively and in terms of ball striking, I mean, that's how he plays. He's a high risk, high reward player. And honestly, Alejandro Garnacho played well, but there's a sense to which we missed Anthony a lot because Anthony gives a lot of control to what we do. He's very good at maintaining the ball and progressing the ball. And Garnacho, he was beating Luke Ayling a lot, but he was also getting stopped by Luke Ayling a lot and giving the ball away in unideal situations. So I do want to give the 18-year-old like a bit of leeway. But I think if Anthony starts that game instead of him, we win that game. Um,
I would agree with that. I mean, after all, he is 18. There's only so
yeah.
much experience he's had playing in the Premier League. So
He's still fantastic though. I think he's still a great player, but he needs a bit more time. I think he'll be great. I think he'll be a great player. I just don't think that game was potentially the right one for him.
mm,
But obviously, Ten Hag's hand was pushed. The one big positive of the game was Sancho looked amazing.
yes, he did. Yeah, he. How long has he been out for? Or is he?
He's not really played since before the World Cup. He was
Yeah.
sort of he started off and then he sort of got phased out a bit by Ten Hag, and now it looks like he's getting reintroduced. He needed a bit of a break for his mental health, but we signed him. What we signed him for is what he actually the first time I think he's been able to do it is his creativity, getting into the box, getting the ball in dangerous positions, and putting in dangerous balls. And he did that. His link up with Luke Shaw today was fantastic.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, you just see the difference that he kind of turned it around for the entire
Mm,
team in that second half when he came on as a substitute. But
yeah,
I was very impressed with him. And if he was the kind of player who was playing for England and the way he can play, which we saw on Wednesday, he's a very dangerous forward
yeah,
for an already dangerous attacking team. But
yeah.
it
Um,
was
I,
it was
I will
interesting.
say, I was disappointed how flat we looked after that Sancho goal. It did seem like we didn't. I think Leeds, to be fair to them, and you can expand on this. I think
Mm.
Leeds did a pretty good job at interrupting and not letting us build any momentum after that Sancho goal. So I'll give you guys credit for that. But anyway, I'll let you continue. What were your thoughts on from the Leeds perspective?
It was chaotic. It was 90 minutes of pure chaos, which play like you mentioned earlier, plays perfectly into our style of football. And it was more so with the Bielsa ball, where it was that murder ball practice where you just go, 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 go. Lots of goals. Quite often, we'd score maybe two or three, give up just as many, if not more, at times. And I was ecstatic with this result. I was really hoping we could manage to hold on the 2-0 lead, but this is where the big players show up, just like Rashford and Sancho did. So all props to them for getting that. But Willie Nunto, he is for
Wow.
£4 million for this
Yeah.
now 19-year-old from Italy, an Italian international. He's going to be worth triple that in
Oh,
probably already is. So
oh
it's
no, he'd go for like 60, 70 million now, I
right.
think.
Yeah, it's he was played superb, and I'm the one thing I was bummed about is we had to use two subs relatively early on, with Luis Sinisterra going down in about the 5th minute. He had to come off, and we brought on Somerville, which I would have much rather brought Somerville on later in the match because he has the speed and the ability to create goal scoring opportunities, which when defenders have played 60, 70 minutes, bring him on and he could be a nightmare for people. We saw that against both Liverpool and Bournemouth in that one stretch where it was two late goals to win it, where him and Willie paired up perfectly. But apart from that, I was the second goal was lucky. I'll put it that way. Second goal was kind of lucky. Tried to play the ball across, and Varane just got in the way and knocked it into his own net. So thank you for that. But
I mean, we gave the ball up in a terrible position. You guys broke so fast, like
oh yeah,
you know, it was like we fucked up. Like
yeah.
we gave you the ball, and well, Leeds, to be fair, Leeds did well with their counter pressing to win the ball that high
Mm-hmm.
up as well. It just felt like we came out that both halves just looking a bit sort of, I don't know, static and lifeless. I actually missed the first 2 minutes of the game as well because the light rail got delayed on the way to the
Oh
pub, so I didn't get to see a lot of most of like the goal and immediately afterwards. I just saw 1-0 and I got in and I saw your text. I was like, what the fuck's happening here?
yeah. But
Um,
even that first goal was we turned the ball over in your end,
yeah,
and then just that pressing with
yeah,
who was it? Tyler Adams, who's been
yeah,
superb, and then Pascal Stroik, who he was the other player that came off early in that first half. They pressed it, got the ball to Nunto, passed 1-2 with Bamford, and just slotted it past De Gea.
it's a great
Dream start
finish.
at Old Trafford, so it's
Yeah,
nothing to complain about there. But besides that, the rest of the first half seemed like it was very much all Man U. At the end of the day, the total stats. I mean, I know the announcer said something on NBC that it was kind of like Man U had 23 attempts or 23 shots total. Leeds had 8.
yeah.
That kind
Not
of
to
right
be,
there
yeah.
shows a little bit of it, but it was definitely a little bit closer than that, I would say, in terms of it, because some of the shots that you guys had weren't necessarily great ones. But I
Well, the
want to give
stat I
credit.
saw, just to add on to that quickly, the stat I saw, and I know not to be an XG nonce, but Man United had an XG of about 2.39 and
Yeah,
Leeds had an XG about 0.56. So maybe
we'll take it.
we we created some decent chances. But anyway, sorry, continue.
Yeah, no, but I mean, just like it seemed like it was all Man U for the most part. I had a feeling that we were gonna when it was 1-0. I had a feeling you guys were gonna score early in the or towards the end of the first half, get one early in the second, and it'd be another 3-4-1 drubbing. But
Yeah,
fortunately, it wasn't with that lucky goal. But this was kind of before I get into my next point. Ilya Melier, he had a superb match for us,
yeah.
and I would say
That run save,
he
wow.
was very yeah. The one Will's talking about was Varane had a header in probably around between the 6 and 18 yard box, and Melier just quick reflex knocks it over the bar. But this was also Leeds fired Jesse Marsh, which we'll get into in a little bit. Fired him earlier on in the week on Monday. So it's kind of we had a caretaking groups. There were three managers all kind of working together. And I think their whole plan was just coming in, just play free attacking, free flowing football and just put the pressure on them, force them to stop you, and kind of just make it a scrappy, chaotic game, which it was.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see how that happens in the next match that they play because the two play again on Sunday,
What
which
was funny as I saw Ralph Ragnick. There's a Ralph Ragnick's obviously Man United's
mm,
ex-manager, assistant Anna. What's his name? And Chris Armas. That's it.
mm,
And Man United fans hated him. He was always wearing AirPods on the side of the pitch, and no one could figure out why. And obviously Man United fans were not very happy during the Rangnick era, and he became
yeah.
sort of a symbolic villain during that. So it was sort of like the Chris Armas derby, and he got back and got one over his old club. Thought it was quite funny. But anyway, so I continue.
No, absolutely. But I mean, I was going to ask you, what do you think, Man, you need to change going into that match on Sunday? Because it's very, very rare that we see a team play twice in a span of 5 days, especially with both being Premier League matches. So
Yeah.
occasionally we'll get like a FA Cup or something, and then another one on the weekend. But this is two league matches.
So I think I do want to say as well, in fairness, I think it's still, given how we played, we should have won the game. I think there was just a combination of some great saves. and some slightly questionable finishing at times. And I think we, unfortunately, De Gea probably should have done a bit better for at least the first one. But again, Nonto did a great shot, so I don't want to take that away from him. I think we need more control in the game. I think we did pretty well for most of the game to maintain control, but there were just times when Fred would give the ball away stupidly, or like Bruno would try something, and we'd give the ball away. And Leeds, like at times, their pressing and their counter pressing really got to us, and we were missing a Casemiro. We really missed Eriksen that game. Sabitzer looked good. He had a bit of a rough start, but he looked tidy. He didn't drop as deep as I'd like him to. At times, it felt like Fred was the deeper lying one. I didn't understand that at all. I'd much rather have Fred higher up the pitch causing chaos rather than in our own half, giving the ball away. But I'd like to see more control. I think Anthony really offers a lot of control. It's really starting to become clear to me why Ten Hag was so keen on him as a player. Again, the price
question:
tag.
Will he be back on Sunday?
Oh, I don't know. I'll have a look now. I really hope, because from what I understand, it was just a knock. But
yeah,
well, Man United boss Ten Hag lives Anthony. He's not expected to be out. Okay, it's not. I didn't know what it was.
Decision, sort of.
Yeah, it'll probably be something like that. If he's not, then maybe I'd like to see a Sancho on the left, Rashford on the right. I think another issue with the game is Rashford. They really did put a lot of effort into marking Rashford out the game. So it would be one of those games where it'd be useful to have Rashford up front, so they can't just, stick players on him when he's. And I felt like Weghorst offers a lot, and I thought he was good during the game, but he's not got lightning speed. He's a pretty lumbering sort of player. So Leeds could afford to push up a bit more. Having Rashford as a sort of threat over the top, force those defenders back and open up a bit more space for Bruno to work in, for Sabitzer to work in. I'm not sure. It depends a lot on the injuries. If Anthony's still out, we might have to go with the same lineup. I think Jadon Sancho should start, but I don't know if he can start on the right or if he really wants to be on the left. So we'll have to see about that. But look, I think if we come in with a similar game plan, we probably win the next game. You may disagree.
I agree.
It's a lot easier playing at Old Trafford. Yeah, we should have won that game. It's a lot easier playing at Old Trafford, I will say. So there may be the away game sort of like detractor, and it might be close. But I think Ten Hag's going to have a look at it. He's going to maybe put Fred slightly higher up so his mistakes aren't as easily like capitalized on. He'll make some changes. I think the changes we need to make were pretty evident, but I think we should be fine for the next game. But what are your thoughts? What should Leeds do to try adapt?
I mean, I'm just going to bounce on one point you said where we kind of marked out Rashford and marked out Weghorst. Major props to the center back duo of Max Wöber and Robin Koch. Wöber had an incredible goal line save from who was it? That was Garnacho, wasn't it?
Garnacho, he got past the goalkeeper.
Yeah, got right around Melier, right? Sent Ailing sliding for miles, and then had the shot on target, and Wöber just happened to be there and headed it away, which that was a massive save and could have been a complete turnaround for Man U. That would have made it 1-1 at the time. So props to him, but I don't know. It's hard to say because I don't necessarily know what the managerial style is going to be, because there's all this talks that Radrizzani, the Leeds owner, was saying, oh, we'll have our new manager signed and hired by Thursday. It's now Friday. It's nothing's happened. No one has any idea what the hell is happening. There's about 3 or 4 names I've seen thrown out there.
Pochettino in the running? He'd make a lot of sense.
That's who I think we should hire, but I don't think he is. I think he said he doesn't want to go to a club as small as Leeds, which in my terms, I think it means he doesn't want to go somewhere where he doesn't have millions and millions to spend on getting new players the whole time. But that makes sense to him, I guess. Otherwise, there was a talks of this Feyenoord manager, but I think he's pulled out. The guy who I was really wanting to get as the manager was the West Brom manager, Carlos Corbin, because he was the assistant coach for Leeds under Marcelo Bielsa, so he knows a lot of the players, he knows the kind of style, knows what Leeds is all about, and I thought that would have made sense, but he re-signed a contract the day after till 2027, so he's out of the running. But that would have been a great hiring. Otherwise, I think we just need to keep it chaotic. When it was chaos, it benefited Leeds far more than when it benefited Man U. And like you said, you guys need to keep possession. I think we need to just keep it crazy. And the Ellen Road crowd is up there as one of the best, I would say, probably in England. But it's going to be interesting to see with that home crowd and what they're able to do and how much energy they're going to be able to bring. I was very disappointed with Weston McKennie, though. don't know if I want him to start. I would much rather see Mark Rocca start if he is healthy and able to play, but I just wasn't overly impressed with him. The only thing I really remember him doing was getting a yellow card and maybe a couple turnovers, but kind of just seemed to be an open space. And story of Leeds this season, we cannot connect passes to save our lives. It was
Yeah.
bad at times in this match as well, but moving on to Sunday, it should be interesting. I honestly think we'll lose, but I don't know if
Well,
you.
fingers crossed you do.
Yeah,
um,
no, I'm sure.
I reckon. I do. I will say a lot of your chances came from counter pressing or us just giving
Mhm.
the ball away. I can't think of too many sort of sequences where it was you pass it through us, and we'll see. Maybe you guys will be working on that, but
Yeah,
I do think if we tidy up our mistakes, we should look a lot more solid.
yeah,
No Fred
absolutely.
as a defensive midfielder. He's not allowed to
No,
play
he
there anymore.
no, he shouldn't. He shouldn't be playing there to begin with. But that just shows how much you were missing Casemiro. As you
Oh
texted to
yeah,
me while the match was going on, that was a
mm,
big miss
yeah.
because he would have
Someone
held that
calm like
down completely.
deal with it. Like he's you need
Mhm.
it. You want him more for his defensive abilities, but it's like his calmness as well. Like dealing with the storm and like dealing with chaos style. Just someone. I think Ericsson was even a bigger miss than Casemiro. I think someone
Oh, okay.
calm who can control the tempo, technically secure, not going to do something stupid, not going to play a stupid ball. I think he was a big miss, but you know Andy Carroll decided to end his season in a meaningless FA Cup game whilst Reading were down like 2-0. So
Yeah,
screw that guy.
yeah. And he was already a Liverpool player, so I know there's no
Yeah,
love lost towards
no,
Andy
I
Carroll to
can't stand
begin
that
with.
guy.
So,
Yeah.
but we'll kind of move on from that match and that preview for this Sunday to some other news. Kind of discussed the Leeds manager situation, but Man City getting hit with that financial fair play penalty.
Mhm.
I don't know what's going to happen there. It's not
Yeah.
surprising that they're getting hit with something, but I heard that the lawsuit's going to be 2 to 4 years. So,
From what I understand, it's going to be a lot of Man City's lawyers like slowing the process down with these like objecting to certain things being allowed into evidence and stuff like that, and it taking a while for the appeal to go through, and then turns out they're objection was invalid, but then they'll go into something else. There's going to be a lot of stalling and a lot of time wasting. But I do think, given how much time the Premier League has spent on this already, like it's been
mm,
what 3-4 years now they've been working on this case. I think that they have something concrete, like 100 charges. There's going to be something in there that'll stick. I don't know if it will be getting rid of their titles as some Man United and Liverpool
I
fans
bet you
would
would love.
like.
I bet you would love that because wouldn't it be 3 titles to Man U, 3 to Liverpool in that time?
Yeah, it'd be something like that. In Liverpool's golden age, in our worst 10 years, we still came second as much as Liverpool. I think that gives me a lot of satisfaction. Um,
Yeah,
Mourinho would have a Premier League title as well with the United.
as would Steven Gerrard.
Oh goodness. Okay, I don't want to think about that.
Which that should just be a complete mess. But I
Yeah.
don't think they'll lose their titles. I The other
No.
ones I was seeing though are kind of extreme. Getting them obviously point relegation this year that would make sense. We see what happens with Juventus, their financial issues, and they just got hit with a 15-point penalty in Serie A, dropped them from second to like 15th. But otherwise, I was seeing like expulsion from the league, automatic relegation, and there were a lot of things on Twitter, a lot of memes about, oh, this is the team Man City's going to have, and it's all like the FIFA layout, and it's all silver bronze players because they just have no more money.
Well, I think there is precedent in terms of Rangers in the Scottish leagues getting. I believe they got
Mm.
sent down. There's 4 tiers in the
So
Scottish
yeah,
system. They got sent right down to the fourth one. Can't remember exactly why. It was a while ago.
yeah, it
Um,
was early 2000s.
Yeah, I remember Steven Gerrard like was managing when they first got back up to the championship. From what I remember.
Yeah, it's weird. It had something to do with their financial takeover, and it was just
So
I,
yeah,
I want to
so
say it was something with that, but
yeah, so there is precedent for like booting a club out of the system and
mm,
things like that. So it's not unheard of. It These things sound super extreme, but they could do it. Like Juventus got relegated to Serie B after the Calciopoli scandal. Like
yeah,
they could do it.
yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. But it also brings up an interesting question because obviously Man City was touted as spending all this money and all this. What about Chelsea this year?
Hmm.
How are you spending 600 million and not going to get hit with financial fair play? regulations down the line.
Well,
I've talked to a couple Chelsea fans,
yeah.
and they think that they're probably going to get hit with something if Man City does.
I thought what I was under the impression is that they were spreading the costs through installments over the length of the contract. So Mudrik's
Okay.
contract is 8.5 years. So they're going to spread that. What it was about 70, 80 million. They're going to spread that 80 million over that. So it's 10 million a year. So that's so. And again, I know very little about baseball, but from what I saw a comment somewhere saying when Todd Bowley took over the Dodgers, there was this huge investment at the start, and then they tried to look for more sustainable ways of getting talent, and they lowered their investment. So it
Yeah.
might be something similar to that. They have this huge investment spread over years, and then and also I think with Man City, I think a lot. I'm not sure if the dodginess was related to transfers or if it was payments. Because I know one of the big ones was ex-manager Roberto Mancini was getting paid directly by Abu Dhabi, and there was no intermediary with Man City. And there was
Oh,
some. I
okay.
think there was some of that. I'm not sure if that was related to transfers. That could be.
Man,
Um,
that's
but
something I had
this,
not seen. So that's
yeah,
interesting because yeah, that doesn't sound like a transfer relevant thing. If he's just getting
yeah,
kind of, it's almost like he's being paid under the table by
well,
the
yeah,
Arabs. So
yeah.
it's going to be interesting to say the least.
It's
Oh,
just a shame we're gonna have to wait ages. And I don't know if you saw that Guardiola press conference where he's like getting this siege mentality already, sort of Mourinho style, like everyone's out to get us, and we're gonna. So I'm very excited for the Arsenal Man City game. That's gonna add an extra sort of layer to that.
oh yeah.
Um, anyway,
But is there any other news that you've seen this week that you want to kind of touch on at all from surrounding the
nothing.
Premier
Nothing.
League?
I think you've covered everything I'd want to cover.
Yeah, I think those are kind of the two big stories was the Leeds manager and then Man City, obviously. But we'll move on. We'll start off with the last game in our previews, which we considering the match of the week for just in general. For us, the match of the week is obviously Leeds Man U, but
Mm.
Everton Liverpool on Monday. For those who don't know, this is the Merseyside derby, two of the bigger rivals in England, and their stadiums are less than a mile apart. It's across a public park from each other. So there's no love lost between those two. It's going to be an interesting one because obviously Everton coming in high off a win against Arsenal on the weekend, which I don't think anyone really expected to see that happen.
Yeah, I think that was Sean Dyche's tactics already. Um, I think firstly, what we have to consider is Frank Lampard did not know how to coach a defensive system to save his life. He
Nope.
was really out of his depth. I think he's a not very good manager.
Agreed.
So a lot of his times, a lot of his tactical instructions didn't make sense. He'd be asking to play up from the back and press high, but his players weren't able to do that, or he'd ask them to sit deep and then press high, and there was just too much space being left in midfield. It wasn't working. The three at the back system wasn't working, and they were getting, destroyed by teams who were taking advantage of all that space. They're pressing them high. They couldn't handle it. So Sean Dutch has gone back to basics. Gone back to a 4-5-1. He set up an expert mid block. He shuttled his midfielders across. He's got three. Onana is an excellent midfielder. He probably won't be at
Mhm.
Everton too much longer, but he looks like he's
No.
determined to fight to help them stay up at least this season. Decore once was, the next up and coming when Everton signed him. I remember, I think he was at Watford, and he was fantastic. And then they sort of plundered him from it. He's been kind of off in the past few seasons, but again, he looked fantastic. Just put three midfielders, and they hit them on the counter with a big forward in DCL and hit him with the set pieces with their big centre backs, and it worked. It worked really well. They restricted Arsenal. Arsenal had no space to play. It was a really boring game for for Arsenal fans, but it was an expertly done mid block, and I think Sean Dyche is really going to frustrate the living hell out of Liverpool fans this weekend.
Absolutely. And I mean, Liverpool lost 3-0 at Wolves over the weekend. So they're not looking in a great place at the moment, already sitting in 10th in the league, which this kind of match is more for royal or more for oh man, I'm completely drawing a blank
Bragging
on the word.
rights.
Yeah, that's the word. I don't know why I missed that. Yeah, completely for bragging rights for them because I don't see them really making a run towards the Champions League. I think they're kind of too far out at this point. Maybe the Conference League. Could you imagine seeing Liverpool in the Conference League, first of all?
Yeah, that'd be bizarre. I think Well, firstly, a fun fact about Wolves. Wolves had only scored 12 goals all season before that Liverpool game. So shows how good a
Jeez.
good offensively. They did sign a new striker, Matthias Cunha, who I think is fantastic, and they did make some excellent
Mm,
signings. Wolves, in fairness,
yeah,
but Liverpool, it's a real state of affairs that Liverpool are conceding three to the worst attacking team in the league, and I think the spaces that Liverpool leave open with are going to be ruthlessly exploited by Everton's wingers. I think
absolutely.
it could be a tough. At the same time, I think too much revisionism is a bad idea. Ultimately, Liverpool still have some fantastic game-changing players. Everton obviously had that new manager bounce. I don't think Arteta quite knew what to expect. They're still a young
Mm,
team. There was a new manager bounce. Liverpool, although they've been crap this season, they've a bit more experience about them. Klopp's been in this situation a lot of times before. I don't think it's going to be a complete rollover. I think Liverpool are going to I think they're going to surprise people. They still have quality. Jota's back in training. Nunes is eventually going to start converting some of these chances, but I don't know. I think Liverpool. I think the main issue for Liverpool this year is their finishing has just plummeted, and their midfield has lost the ability to run basically. Um,
yeah, it's gotten
so
too old for too old.
yeah,
But I mean, they've also been without Virgil van Dijk, and that's kind of quite something because he's possibly one of the better center backs in the league. But these two teams, like, they've given up the exact same amount of goals. That's the crazy thing. They've both given up 28 goals, Everton and Liverpool. So it's not like either team's really that defensive minded. It's just Liverpool's managed to score a few more at times, but even then, it's they might score 5 in one match and then none for the next couple.
well, they scored 9 against Bournemouth, and
Yeah, that's true. That's
to
right.
really inflate their attacking statistics. To be fair, I did see again not to be an XG nonce.
Mm,
They are pretty high up on the XG tables. I think they're third behind Arsenal and Man City in terms of goals like XG created.
yeah,
XG against is pretty diabolical. But they've been creating a lot. I think, unfortunately, Nunes still hasn't quite found his scoring boots. Salah maybe isn't as otherworldly as he usually is, although I still think he's fine.
yeah,
They're missing Jota. They're missing Firmino. Mane was a big miss.
yeah,
I think
yeah,
they've got enough quality to pose Everton some issues. They're going to be really up for this game. Klopp's going to really motivate them for this game. It's going to be a really interesting game. I don't know how it's going to go, to be honest. I don't think it's going to be Everton. I don't think it's going to be another Everton Arsenal. I think the game six is going to be completely different. I think it's going to be a lot more chaotic. I think Liverpool are going to have maybe are arguably better posed to cause damage to Arsenal with that just chaotic transition style. We'll just have to see.
and I think this game, I mean, obviously for Everton, they're sitting in that third and final relegation spot in 18th, so a win for them would be massive, even a point. But as far
Yeah.
as Liverpool go, they need to turn it around. They've won one of their last 7 across all competitions. Not good. Not good enough for a team that has arguably one of the better players in the world in Mo Salah, one of the better managers in the world in Jurgen Klopp. They should be doing so much better. And I think if they're going to turn around and save anything this season, it starts on Monday with this match against Everton. If they lose this, it's the season's done. Write it off. Everyone just go home.
I have to see
Do
how they
you,
do against Real Madrid.
yeah, my question for you on that is if they do lose to Everton, does Jurgen Klopp get sacked?
I think he's got so much credit in the bank for what he's done to revitalize the club that they have to give him at least another season. If it's still terrible by the end of the season, next season, and then I think, or even halfway through next season, I think
Hmm.
next season it's like they'll give him
To
another
do or
summer.
die
They'll
for
sign it,
him.
give him some midfielders, and if he can't make that work, then there's going to be questions. I think.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting match to watch on Monday. That's our match of the week. But we'll now hop
Do you have
into
a
the
score prediction before we hop onto the next?
score prediction. I do think Liverpool win. I'll go 2-1 to Liverpool because
You know
only
what's
if this is at Goodison Park because this match is at Anfield, which is Liverpool's home. If this is
Oh,
at
it's at
Goodison,
Anfield. I
it's
thought it
at
was at Goodison.
Anfield. No,
Oh,
if this is at Goodison, I'm going 2-1 Everton, but it's at Anfield, so I'm going 2-1 Liverpool just with that little bit of home field advantage.
oh, if it's at Anfield and it's a Merseyside derby, I think it's Liverpool. I think there's going to be like if Liverpool score that first goal, it's the atmosphere is going to start rocking, and Everton's players are going to start panicking. Given like how
Mhm.
bad the morale must be in that camp, obviously it's going to be boosted by beating Arsenal and new manager, but they haven't proved themselves to be the most mentally resilient side in the past few years. Um,
No.
so if Anfield starts getting rocking, I could see it potentially getting ugly, and Liverpool just I don't know. I trust Dyche too much for it to get happen, but I could just see
Yeah.
that potentially Anfield really contributing. I'll go 2-0
2-0
Liverpool. I think.
Liverpool.
I
Yeah,
don't know
so
if
you
I'm
heard
giving
it.
them too much credit, but
You heard it there, though. So we will now move on to the other matches in this weekend, and we'll start with a London derby, West Ham and Chelsea. Thing that surprised me about Chelsea, they've had 3 straight 0-0 matches. Obviously, Graham Potter's turned around their defense, but the offense is lackluster. However, João Felix will be back. I think that's going to make a big difference attacking wise because he has never lived up to the expectations and the hype, but he is still a very dangerous attacking player. So
I'm always curious when watching Chelsea games. Like, I know it's the most common question people ask is like, who are they going to start? With João Felix back, so watching Enzo Fernandez play, I had to watch his debut because
mm,
they spent 100 whatever, like 106 million on this guy.
yes.
He looked fantastic, but I'm not convinced by Conor Gallagher beside
Mm-mm.
him. I think they really needed a Jorginho type beside Enzo Fernandez. Let him go push further up the pitch, create some magic. So I'm really curious who they play alongside him. Does he stick with Gallagher? Does Mount play if João Felix is there? Because I can't. I think Mason Mount gets a lot of unfair criticism, but playing him over João Felix seems like a bad decision to me, to put it
I would agree
bluntly.
with you there. I would play
Um,
João Felix over probably both Mason Mount and Conor Gallagher
yeah, I
personally.
don't know.
But
I'm just curious. I'm not sure if Mudryk starts either because Mudryk looks really sort of lackluster.
uh,
Madueke was a bit sort of raw around the edges, but he showed a lot more intent and like combined well at times. Um, Reece James is a huge about he looked good when combining with Reece James. He's going to be a big factor as well.
yeah,
I'm just fascinated. I reckon Sterling's probably still got that starting left wing spot locked down. I
because
reckon.
he came on as a sub on Friday,
Oh,
I
did
believe it
he? Oh, was
was.
it
Yeah,
Ziyech who started?
Sterling
Oh,
came. Yeah, Ziyech started on the right.
yeah,
Their
that was
front
it.
three were Kai Havertz in the middle, Ziyech on the right, Mudryk on the left, and Mount kind of
Okay,
in that center attacking role.
okay.
So I
And then
would,
I think
yeah,
Sterling should have it locked down. I think Sterling offers so much more than Ziyech.
I was gonna say, would you go a front three of Ziyech, Havertz, and Sterling instead of Mudryk? Mudryk.
I want to start Sterling. I know that. I think he's Chelsea's
Mm,
best attacker.
I agree.
I wonder if Potter. I can't remember in that Chelsea Fulham game. Where did João Felix play? I think that I'm
Chelsea Fulham, he didn't play. That was the last match of his red card
was
suspension. Oh,
well,
the
he
first
got he
one,
got a
the
red
first.
card
Yeah,
during
that's
that game.
right.
Oh, so they played three at the back and he played up front. That's interesting. So
Yeah,
maybe honestly they play João Felix as the false nine, Sterling on the left and Ziyech on the right. I mean, you've got a runner in behind in Sterling. You've got João Felix who connect the play very well, who can drop deep as well and give Sterling. I'm not sure if Ziyech works. Maybe Mudryk would make more sense in that situation. But I'm just trying to think because I'm not sure about the profiles. Like they don't have an out-and-out striker. Havertz doesn't move me at all. He had
no,
another stinker versus Fulham.
yep.
Like I don't know. I think we don't need to spend too much time thinking about it, but it's just such a fascinating side. I would not want to be the manager of Chelsea right now because I cannot figure out who's going to play where and who works well together. It all just seems to be a sort of a mess.
Yeah, if this gives you any insight, I don't know if you have the what's Live Score app, but
Yeah,
Live Score is a great app for following football all over the world. They are showing like their predicted lineup for Chelsea tomorrow, and it is Kai Havertz up top, then it's João Felix on the left, Mason Mount in the middle, and Ziyech on the right. So once again, Sterling
really.
falls to the bench with Gallagher and Enzo Fernandez behind. But
I
take it
don't
with a
like
grain
that
of
starting
salt. It's
line.
just a random prediction by them. So
Yeah, no, I understand that. I don't. I'm not sure I like João Felix. I think he works a lot better as centrally and he let him drift around and
mhm.
interplay. Now I say him and Fernandez should have a great link up. Him and
Yes,
like Sterling would work amazingly together. I don't know. I will see.
yeah,
I'm not a Chelsea fan, so I don't study that team too
that's fair.
closely. But they're just such an interesting team. West Ham are another one in the Chelsea and Liverpool vein. Not quite the same size, but they really need to turn this season around as
Yes,
well.
they do. They're currently 17th in the table. They're a point ahead of Everton for that last relegation spot, just behind Leeds on goal difference. But not even goal difference. It's like goals scored or something. Because they're both tied on goal difference, but it's beside the point. West Ham do need a point here. They need some result against this Chelsea side if they are going to be able to try and turn this season around. Because, like you said, it's been a dire season for them.
Yeah, and I'm not sure how well Lucas Paqueta has settled in. I think there's been major aggression from some of the major players, from like some of the most important players when they've been going on those like Europa League runs and whatever. I think Mikel
Mm-hmm.
Antonio is not featured as much as he'd like to, wants to leave. Thomas Suchek looks terrible. Um,
Yeah.
Jared Bowen's
And,
only scored 4 goals in the league this season. They've got the
and
talent, but it seems like a bit of a Leicester where the players just aren't really playing for each other, and it's a bit of a lazy cliche, but I don't know. There's just been a massive slump, and Moyes can't seem to get them out of it.
yeah, I mean, their striker up top is Mikel Antonio, and he has 2 goals in the league this season, which that's not good enough for your number 9 to be getting. It's just
They just
not.
haven't been scoring enough. I think what was the stat? I had a good stat up for West Ham, and I can't remember it.
While you're looking at that, I'm gonna just say they did have a decent result over the weekend, getting a 1-1 draw at Newcastle, but it's one of
Yeah,
those things like how much can you really take from that? It was on the road in Newcastle, but still, they seem to play very, very sloppily.
they've only scored 15 goals this season. That's
Yeah,
wild to me.
that's
West
that's
Ham
not
is
good.
like and here's another great stat for you. Um, Most people wouldn't have thought this given how like the youth of Jared Bowen and Rice, but not a single player under the age of 22 has started for West Ham this season, and only one under 22-year-old has played at all, which was 18-year-old Divin Mubama, who made a 3-minute cameo at the end of a game against Arsenal. That's all the minutes David Moyes has given to young players this season. It's an aging squad which they just haven't refreshed. Like Maxwell Cornet's been injured, and I don't know. It's some certain players just really have failed. Pablo Fornals is another one who's been pretty poor. I think defensively they're still pretty solid. They just can't score. It's wild to me that Danny Ings was supposed to help with that, but he's injured again. Don't know when he's back. Like they didn't refresh enough this January window because they just look old and like
They kind of
uninspired.
Yeah, I mean, this was a team last year that finished seventh outside of the big six of Man City, Liverpool, Man U, Chelsea, Tottenham, Arsenal. This was the next best team. So this was the best of the rest. And they have not looked like it at all. I know we
I remember them
mentioned
giving
about,
Man City some real problems as well last
yeah,
season.
yeah, they were a good team last year and everything was just clicking. And it's not like they've lost players. They just haven't really brought in any players and changed that squad at all, like you said. I
Like
don't
Maxwell
see them getting a huge
and
result here, but
Cornet and what's man's name again? And Paqueta was supposed to be that thing, but Cornet has played 5 Premier League games this season. Isn't that wild? He was supposed to be that. He's 26. He's a winger. He was supposed to provide an attacking spot. He's played 5 games, not scored a single goal. He was fantastic for Burnley when he joined. Wasn't good enough to keep them up, but he was by far their best player. Just hasn't played.
absolutely. So, score prediction for you in this one.
I think it'll be both teams are defensively solid, a bit drab. I think 1-0 for Chelsea. João Felix will inspire a bit of attacking creativity. Him and Enzo Fernandez move me. I reckon there'll be some nice interplay between the two of them and they'll score a goal. But only one
Yeah,
though.
I agree. I think it'll be 1-0 because Chelsea has not shown that they have the real ability to score goals. But getting João Felix back and Enzo Fernandez kind of actually finding his way and finding his groove of things in England, that'll be important. So I'll follow you with that one, 1-0 for Chelsea. But there's 3 other matches in London, which I find that amazing that they're doing 4 matches in London on the same day. I know they're all
Yeah.
kind of spread out, but never
Nightmare
seems
to
like that
please.
happens. But the next one, Arsenal Brentford, which this is going to be an interesting one because Brentford haven't been a bad team at all this year. They're sitting in seventh at the moment. Arsenal obviously first, but lost to Everton on the weekend. So, what are your just initial thoughts on this one? I know you mentioned Ivan Toney earlier, but
There's going to be some bad blood in this one. I remember there was a clip from All of Nothing where Arteta used a Tony tweet to motivate the rest of the team. I don't think the teams particularly like each other. I remember the first game of the season. Had all my friends around because a bunch of them are Brentford fans, and we were watching it, and Arsenal looked shell shocked when they were playing. I think Brentford, they're a great side. They're very good controlling games. Once they go up, they don't concede. They're very smartly run, sensible club. But I think I hate to use this as a sort of like general toss in, but Arsenal just have more quality. I think it's going to be really hard
Yeah.
to deal with at the Emirates, especially just heavy pressing, pressing from the front. The counter pressing that Arsenal does, it's really well structured and it's really hard to like play your way out of unless you have like these exceptional technical players. Now, Brentford has some fantastic players, but on the level of Arsenal's, I don't think so. I think when there's a clear talent advantage for one side, there has to be an organisation's like
Mm.
to counteract that. And unfortunately, Brentford are very well organised, but so are Arsenal. So unless Thomas Frank springs some sort of master plan or Ivan Toney, I think the way they could win is just Ivan Toney magic. Like they've got some great Brian Mbembo, he's fantastic. I mean, they've got some attacking talent, but I know. I think that's the way they'd win that game is with sort of Ivan. They're in great form as well. So if they could, if there's any team which could like any mid top like one of those sorts of teams who could do it, it would be Brentford. But at the
Yeah.
Emirates against that Arsenal side, I don't know.
Yeah, especially when, I mean, Arsenal won the reverse fixture 3-0 at
Yeah.
Brentford. So, but with that being said, they had Jesus and it was a little healthier of an Arsenal side. But I don't know. I don't really. I can see Brentford giving it or getting a win here just because Ivan Toney, like you said. But I just think Arsenal at the end of the day, too much talent, too much skill there, and it's just not enough for. It's going to be
Well,
overpowering almost.
the one thing I will say is that there does seem to be a sort of blueprint to beating Arsenal. I think I will say this as a sort of counter my own earlier point that setting up with a mid block with three in midfield, you saw Newcastle do it with a 4-1-4-1. You saw Everton do it with a 4-5-1, setting up really restricting their opportunities in midfield and then countering quickly could be a way to do that. And Brentford can counter quickly. I remember
Yes, sir.
Brentford battered us 4-0 and they countered like lightning fast through Mbembo and Tony. Now, Man United were a complete mess at the time. We didn't have Casemiro. We didn't have the players that Arsenal had. So it's not as easy as that. But there is a blueprint to beating them. They have good players at corner as well. Ben Mee, Burnley legend. He's got a big head on him. You know,
Yes, he
they
does.
could they could get them through the counter attacks and set pieces, and that would be the way. But I think Arsenal's quality and their ability to sustain pressure will probably be too much.
Yeah. So, score prediction for this one.
Oh, I'll give it like a 2-0 Arsenal.
Yeah. I think they'll repeat it again. 3-0 Arsenal. I think they'll take it quite comfortably. I think they'll score early. Brentford might get a chance, and then it'll just be all the Gunners from there. But two more matches in London. They're not the biggest, most important, so we'll kind of run over them quickly. Palace versus Brighton, and then Fulham Forest. Palace versus Brighton. Have you ever heard it called the M23 Derby?
No, my friend was a massive Brighton fan in my university house in my third year, and he hated Palace. He absolutely despised them. Right,
That's what
they're
I'm
the
starting to
biggest
find out.
rivalry. It's the wildest. I still don't fully understand. There's some history in the FA Cup to do it, but they hate each other. They absolutely despise each other as fan bases.
I was thinking it was
Which
more of like an eagle versus seagull, and they kind of just have beef over who's the better bird. But
I don't think so. I
I
think that'd
doubt
be a
it.
surprising reason for a
Big
rivalry.
twist.
Yeah. Um,
But
so it should be a fire game at Palace as well. I
yeah,
reckon Brighton will still have it. Brighton have
yeah,
been in excellent form, and Brighton. I think Palace are missing that sort of dynamism from midfield. That what's your man's name again? That Conor Gallagher provided.
mm,
They're missing that sort of player. Brighton could just run them over potentially. I think their midfield's a bit static at time. Crystal Palace's. They did sign Hamadara from what's it called again? From Stuttgart, I believe,
yeah.
and
That's
he's
I think
supposed to
so.
provide that. And Lakonga and Amadar, one of those two are supposed to be that sort of dynamic midfielder. Not sure I'm convinced by Lakonga's quality. Amadar's still like new to the Premier League, so it might be a bit early to thrust them into the thick of it. We'll see.
Yeah, and I
I'm
mean,
not,
I was gonna
I
say,
don't regard Brighton too much.
yeah,
Sorry.
I think Brighton wins as well. But Palace haven't won a match in 2023 yet. has not been a pretty stretch, and they have gone and signed a couple new players, and just nothing's been working for them. So, and on the other hand, Brighton's just been superb all season.
Yeah.
Absolute, I would say they're the surprise team of the league this year. Maybe, maybe Arsenal, but Arsenal's blueprint was always there. It was just a matter of time for them to actually get things clicking. But
Mm.
I do,
Yeah, no.
they're interesting. They could very well, if they win this, they'll have one match in hand over Tottenham for that Europa League spot, and they'll only be 2 points behind.
Yeah.
So this is a very
It's
important match for them to move up that
yeah.
table.
I think the thing about Brighton is Potter sort of laid the groundwork in the players and stuff, but De Zerbi just took it to a new level. Like the way they can play through press, they just instinctively know where the other person is. The
Mhm.
automations are fantastic. They already like it's like instinctive for these players. They already know where each other are. It's unbelievable. The guy came in what October, September, around that time, and he's already got his team playing like this. Is fantastic. They're going to be a real danger if they can keep hold of Caicedo and Matoma and players like that. We'll have to see because like, if you even look at their starting lineup, it doesn't seem full of quality. It doesn't seem like the sort of side that's going to go,
No,
slap a team 3-0. But they're
they
really good.
started they started Danny Welbeck at the 9 on Saturday against Bournemouth.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah,
know if we need to say much more than that.
yeah. It's wild.
But
Levi Colwell as well. He's been one of the stars of the season. Alexis McAllister. I think some of their stars were missing, like Alexis McAllister, Levi Colwell. Fantastic. Have been fantastic this season. I don't know if Levi Colwell's injured. I can't remember. Um, but we'll see. I reckon Palace really struggle this game.
yeah, I do too. And well, Palace have yet to win in 2023. Brighton have yet to lose in 2023. I'm taking Brighton in this one. Probably I'll go 3-1.
I think I'll go 2-0.
Do know. Yeah, but both on board with Brighton. We'll move to that Fulham Forest one. Kind of both teams aren't playing for a whole lot at the moment. Fulham's more playing for pride, the fact that they're eighth, so they're playing for to stay ahead of Chelsea and
Conference League.
Liverpool. But
Conference League.
Conference
They
League,
could
I guess.
they could sneak in. It's pretty
Yeah,
unlikely, but
anything's possible there.
I
But
think with
I don't know. This one just doesn't bring much excitement to me. For
I think to sound sort of like transfer nerdy, I think the concept of Nottingham Forest is very interesting. They've
yeah,
signed another 7 players. They signed Jordan Ayew from Qatari
yeah,
club. Like they
from
really
yeah.
the transfer strategy is wild to me.
And I'll
Um,
say Keylor Navas was incredible in his debut against Leeds.
yeah,
Held 1-0, and I think he had something like seven saves, I believe.
yeah,
Something ridiculous. But
yeah.
it goes
He's
back to what
he's
you've been saying and preaching before is how good this transfer window has been for Forest.
Yeah, I think they've got that Brazilian midfielder is very interesting as well. Danilo from Palmeiras. They've got some
Mhm.
really interesting signings. I'm just so curious how it all meshes together. They signed sort of John Joe Shelby.
Yeah. Why? Almost. It's
Yeah,
almost like we think why, but I'm sure there's a plan and there's a reason why. But
well, they're starting to separate themselves. They could really, with a win, they could really start to separate themselves from the
that,
relegation
yeah.
battle. Um, I think they could start. They're on really good form. They've won 3 of their last 5, drawn the other 2. I think they're going to be one of the form teams. Fulham as well. I think, not to sound overly critical, but like I think they've really outperformed their XG and their. I think they're the team that's outperformed it like by a significant margin. So there is a chance that they start their form in the second half of the season starts to plummet a bit. Mitrovic is still quality. I think Marco Silva's getting a lot out of his players. We'll have to see. I'm not too sure about this. They're a very good defensive side, to be fair for them. American Tim Ream, uh, you know, Anthony Robinson, another American, although he sounds like he's from London, which is
Oh,
wild to me.
Anthony Robinson's complete English name.
Yeah. Well, I think it's spelled with 2 E's on the end, but he's still like
Oh,
his like accent is English. Jao Palinia has been fantastic. They've got some great players, but I think there's been a certain level of overperformance. Like I think Nottingham Forest could have this game.
yeah, I could see that happening. I do think. Actually, I don't know because Keylor Navas he hasn't played much in recent times, but he is still very good in goal. And like you said, it's just this: how is this transfer window? How are all these players going to mesh together? But I I'm going to lean to a draw in this one. I think it'll be 1-1 draw. So that'll be my
Interesting.
prediction.
I'll be contrarian and say 1-0 Nottingham Forest win. It'll be some scrappy goal.
Oh yeah, I could see that. Be some like loose ball off a set piece that just
Yeah.
someone pokes into the
I
back
can't
of the
see
net.
I can't see either side like scoring through conventional means, given like Palini's unbelievable ability. I think Fulham are too good defensively to let a Nottingham Forest side who's still figuring it out play through them. I think there'll be some scrappy goal they'll score. I don't think Keylor Navas will concede a goal. They've got some good centre backs, but we'll see.
Yeah, agreed. But moving on to another, we've talked about some random players that Forest have. Random player that in this next one, Leicester versus Tottenham. Obviously, Hugo Lloris is going to be out for 8 weeks. The Tottenham goalkeeper
Oh,
and captain. He has a
wow.
knee ligament injury, so he'll be out for I think they said 8 weeks. But that means Fraser Forster is in net.
Yeah, that's
So
gonna be
it's
weird.
yes, it is. And neither of these teams have had very much luck. I think there's been 71 goals in their last 17 matches I read between the two. So expect goals and expect a lot of them, especially with a
Goodness.
backup goalkeeper playing.
Yeah, I
It's going to be
think
interesting.
I think Leicester have started to turn it around recently. Leicester could really play. I don't know. Tottenham are such a weird team to me. I can never know what their level is.
Yeah,
It always seems to me. One day I'll speak to a Tottenham fan and their season will be a disaster, and they want half the squad gone, and they want to get and then the next day they beat Man City or they
and it's
smack Crystal Palace, and then everything's going well again. I can never tell what level Tottenham are on. I think Leicester are going to be a lot better than their first half. That Tete guy they got, he looks like a
oh
stud.
yeah,
He was like
he's been good.
against Aston Villa, he was taking on people left, right, and centre. He scored a goal. He's really revitalised the squad because they didn't sign a player for 2 consecutive windows, I think. Well, no, they signed one player, Wout Faes, to replace Wesley Fofana, and that was it for the entirety of 2022. And the squad started to stagnate, and now they've finally infused their squad with new talent. I think Leicester could be an interesting one for Tottenham to deal with. But at the same time, Tottenham as well, they've sorted out their right back issues. They've got some more depth up front. Um, they they their sign that their press is looking really good in recent games, so we'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting for sure. And I mean, Harry Kane got his 200th goal. So he has all that confidence back in himself and could be causing issues for a very, very interesting and sketchy Leicester defense. But
Yeah, God, they were starting Daniel Amati at centre back for
yeah,
some of their games. They signed a centre back, fortunately, but they were like running out of people to play there.
yep. I mean, who are their center backs against Aston Villa?
I think
Pulling
that
that
was
up.
Harry Sutar, their new one, and what's his name again?
Oh, it was Wout Faes. Wout
Yeah, it
Faes
was
and
Wout
Harry
Faes.
Suter. But
Because Soyuncu has just disappeared.
yeah,
I don't think. He came on during this game, but I really think Rogers has just turned against him. I think maybe it's his form or whatever. But Soyuncu's disappeared off the face. Here. Vestergaard has been exiled from the squad, so they don't actually have many centre backs. Johnny Evans is injured. Like they don't have many people to rely on.
yeah, it's not a great look for Leicester in that defense. And I do think that'll be shown. I'm going to go 3-2 Tottenham in this one. I
Wow.
think Son will
Okay.
get a goal and Kane will get two.
You think Son
And
will
I,
score? Okay.
I do think Son will score. That might be the hottest take I have on the show
Yeah.
today, but
Yeah.
we're going to go with a Son goal.
Okay, interesting. I might go for the more conservative, like, I do think maybe I don't want to copy you but the more I think about it, the more I think it'll be a nuts game. But I'd probably go 3-1 Tottenham. I don't think
Uh,
Leicester quite have enough quality to score too many
hmm.
goals. Yeah.
Yeah, I could go for a really hot take. 3-2, Harry Kane hat trick, Jamie Vardy 2 goal.
Jamie Vardy 2 goals.
That
Old
would
man
be
Vardy off the
absurd.
bench.
Couldn't
That
remember
would
it.
be
That
absurd.
would be crazy. But we'll move on to the next one. Southampton Wolves, very important match in this relegation battle. Southampton in 20th, Wolves in 15th. Southampton have one win in their last 10. They are
Yeah.
not good
And their manager has been saying
at all.
some nuts things.
Yeah. They are an absolute dumpster fire that
Yeah.
someone's about to pour gasoline on.
Yeah.
It's
They did sign some good players. To be fair, they've been pretty bad at scoring goals, which is quite an important thing you want to be able to do in a Premier League side. But
yeah,
they've
I
signed a
feel like
6'7" striker He's ginormous. He was a top scorer in the Belgian league.
And he's probably terrible at headers, knowing
Yeah,
knowing that he probably can't jump to save a life.
yeah. I'm sure there's some truth in that. I think there's a video of him online scoring the worst hat trick in the world. Like there was like two
Oh,
deflections and a bad
yeah,
penalty.
yeah.
That's that guy.
I remember seeing
Um,
that.
so that's an inspiring signing. He could be like he's by pure virtue of being 6'7", like there is something to it. And he did score 16 goals in the Belgian league, so he can't be complete crap. But it's a very Southampton signing, and they've got some like
Yes, it
that
is.
Sam. What's his name again? Kulimana Samuldin, I think that's his name. Southampton. He looks like their record signing looked really good. Sulemana, Kamaldeen Sulemana.
No,
They just signed him from Rennes for 22, something like £20 million. He looks like he could be the real deal. He's fast, direct, constantly running in behind, constantly stretching the defense. He'll finally give them an option because they've got some talent, but they needed like because they had arguably the worst squad in the league, them or Everton, and they
yeah,
needed some talent, and he has talent. There were Orsic on the other side as well. He's got some sort of quality about him. He can put in a good cross. He can get us into dangerous positions. Sort of gives the ball away a lot, but I don't think Southampton are going to mind that much. So they've got
no.
something about them, but I just still think they're going to be crap. The negative energy around that squad is just a lot.
It seems like they've given up already almost, and
Yeah,
they're kind of content with that relegation spot, which that'd be great for me. I would love to see them
yeah,
just completely
yeah,
plummet, and that takes
yeah,
one spot away that Leeds don't have to be in. But
yeah.
well, predictions for this?
Well, I will say Wolves have been looking good under Lopetegui.
Oh, that's
He's
true.
really sorted out, and they've got some good sign. They had a really good window. I think Wolves are going to smack them 3-0.
Yeah, I will support that. I'll go 2-0, but just because
Yeah,
be a little different for it. But I do think it'll be a very one-sided match. Another one
yeah,
that's going to be very one-sided is Bournemouth Newcastle.
yeah.
Bournemouth may have
Well,
made some good moves in the
yeah,
transfer window, but
yeah,
I don't know. I like the Newcastle team. I really like their
yeah.
squad. It's not like obviously they have the Saudi money now, and it's not like they've just thrown it randomly to a bunch of random players. They have a system, and they're finding players who fit that system. And I think
Mm.
that's going to be a big thing on note against Bournemouth.
Yeah, I think Newcastle should probably comfortably win this game. Um, we'll see. I mean, Bournemouth have some interesting signings. They had apparently they signed one of Serie A's top young talents. We'll see if he's any good. I'm more curious to see how Anthony Gordon does because he had a pretty
Yeah,
tough first half of the season at Everton, where he was often getting thrown up front on his own, and can't really do that, unfortunately for him. I'm very curious to see how it all goes for them. I still think Bournemouth are way too, you know, stuck and trying to figure it out. They're in a pretty tough spot. Like, signing these new players is great, but A, you've got very limited time to integrate them, and B, they've got to start contributing now. All their main signings are under the age of 22. Like, who knows if they're going to be at the level yet to play in the Premier League? I think Newcastle should very comfortably win this one. I'll give it a 2-0.
yeah. I will. I was thinking probably 2 or 3-0, but I've just been reading up a stat that Bournemouth always seem to find a way just to lose by one.
Oh, really?
They've lost 9 of their last 11, and 5 or 6 of those have been by one goal, I believe.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go 2-1, but I could very well see it be 2-0, 3-0 as well.
Yeah, they have looked better recently. They probably should have beaten Nottingham Forest, but I don't know.
Yeah, it's not one of the more exciting matches. But we kind of touched on Leeds Man U already a bit, but I don't know if we gave our score predictions for that. What is your prediction for that on Sunday? Sunday.
3-1 Man United.
Yeah, I'm probably on board with that, sadly.
you got you got to you got to back your side.
I will back the side. I'll say 2-1 Leeds, but realistically, deep down, I know it's not going to be good. I just think this is the kind of thing we talk about, we hear people talking about it in like college football, especially in the NFL. It's so hard to beat a team twice, and it's so hard in the Premier League to get a result against a team twice, especially in a span of 5 days, especially when there's that much difference in the level of play. And I think part of it's just Man U didn't know what to expect against Leeds with the managerial chaos, and it's kind of just thrown out there. So
For
I'll
some.
I'll say 2-1 Leeds for my prediction, but just know that I'm not overly confident in that.
Okay.
And the last match to cover, the second one on Sunday, Man City Aston Villa, the Jack Grealish derby, as it's now known.
um, I think City are really gonna. They're going to be fired up by this financial fair play. I think Guardiola is really going to create this siege mentality. And B, losing to Tottenham, like they're probably their least favourite side in the Premier League over the past 5-6 years. It's going to have them really wound up. I think, unfortunately, poor Aston Villa, as good as they've been under Unai Emery, and I think Unai Emery has made them a lot better, a lot more defensively solid. I think, unfortunately, City, I think it could be a Haaland hat trick. I feel
Yeah.
bad. My friend's an Aston Villa fan, but I wouldn't want to watch the game if I was him. I'd find something more fun to do.
Yeah, like counting clouds or chasing
Yeah.
butterflies or something to take your mind off it. No, I'm with you though. I do think it's an Erling Haaland hat trick incoming.
Mm.
It just seems like that kind of match. He's going to do something absurd again and get back on the scoring sheet. So we're kind of running out of time. So I'm gonna go just to my prediction: back Man City to win. I'm gonna say 5-1. I think it'll be one.
5-1.
I think it'll be one of those crazy Man City scoring matches that they kind of just go on a tear. And
I
like you
think,
said, with the
yeah,
financial fair play stuff
yeah,
surrounding it, they're going to want
yeah.
to come out and make a statement.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And Aston Villa did just concede 4 to Leicester, and like they're still starting Ashley Young at right back. I think Unai Emery's a bit too good. I know that conceding 4 to Leicester was pretty bad. Maybe I'll go 4-0. I know I back Unai Emery, but I also back Erling Haaland a lot more.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Agreed. I think Erling Haaland is probably the best striker in the Premier League, even if he's been on I guess his cold slump is he hasn't scored in 2 or 3 matches. So crazy
Yeah.
to say that, but
Yeah.
no, that was the last match. Is there anything else you want to briefly discuss, or we
No,
can call it quits on that one?
feel happy about everything we touched on.
Yeah, so thank you guys for listening. Check out all of our stuff on Vendetta. Will has just been writing a damn near 8,000 word piece across 2 stories on. Okay, it's definitely shorter then, across about the transfer window that's just closed. So definitely check that out when that gets posted. You can reach out to him and find all his stuff on Vendetta. Reach out to him on Twitter at Will Scott Sports, LLT. Reach out to me on Twitter at JerryF007. Have a good one, and thanks for watching. See you next week.
Bye.